Today, we are talking about the Euro USD as it pulls back into some critical areas that I've discussed recently. So I'm going to have all the details on today's pullback. And this is going to be critical, guys, because where the market trades today and closes today and tomorrow could dictate where this market goes next week. So if you're trading the Euro next week or planning to, this is the video to watch. So looking here at the Euro USD daily time frame, what we've talked about recently with the Euro is that 112 and 112.75 are critical. And we know that because looking back here, if you go to a weekly time frame, you can see that this was the range that the Euro was in for years. So you had range highs up here, you had range lows down here. We saw a sweep of the lows. And now the question is this a sweep of the highs before we get that rotation lower? And the critical thing here for the Euro USD has been these two key levels at 112 and 112.75, simply because, as I mentioned in yesterday's midweek analysis, if you look here at the daily time frame, you can see where the Euro was trading above both of these on the daily. However, it is starting to slip here today, where you can see that we got the close above 112 down here, got the close just above 112.75 on this candle, also on yesterday's candle. So the big question now is, can the market hold above this area here on the daily or not? But what I talked about yesterday, guys, and this is really critical, and this is why I talked about it. I hope you saw that video, because so far this is playing out pretty much exactly with what I talked about there, which was the concern that even though the Euro USD had reclaimed these areas on the daily, right? If you look at the weekly time frame, this was the concern. On the weekly, you can see that both of these levels back here, both of these highs, the Euro actually closed last week below, okay? So this red candle right here, closing back below 112 and 112.75, actually put the market back below these highs on a weekly closing basis. And what I said in yesterday's video, talking about how even though we've seen the daily close above these two levels, the weekly had not yet. The weekly has not closed yet. So what that means is that if this week closes below these levels, and we still have, over 24 hours to go, so a lot can happen. If the Euro closes below these areas here, or I would even go as far as to say if it closes below here, it starts to look, relatively weak, and this breakdown that we saw last week is intact. In other words, the uptrend, the rally that we're seeing so far this week could fail. Okay, so we will see where this market closes over the next couple of days. That's going to be key here for the Euro. And the other thing that's going to be key for that scenario to play out is going to be the DXY. We've talked about this recently as well, but looking at the DXY daily time frame, it's a very similar situation to the Euro in that we do have the DXY breaking back below 100.2. So this breakdown right here looks simple enough. Okay, the market should continue lower, but there is more to the story, and that is the fact that the weekly time frame here, if you look at this low from back here in 2024, right there, 100.2, you can actually see that two weekly candles have closed above this mark. And again, this week has not closed yet, and the market is very, very close to 100.2. So the question is, just like we saw in the Euro USD, where does this week close? Does it close back above 100.2 here for the DXY? If so, I think we could see some upside potential for the US dollar. All right, so we will see where this market closes, but it is getting very close to that level. It's going to be a very interesting couple of days, regardless of how this closes. But I do think for the DXY, guys, 100.2 is going to be the one to watch into this week's close. Just because, too, and I've talked about this recently as well, and I want to touch on this. These imbalances back here for the DXY. First of all, this one was filled. Okay, this was an imbalance on that very aggressive move lower. We saw it filled over here. So that has been satisfied. However, one thing that has not been satisfied, and you can see the same thing on the Euro USD, is this move back here. Right? This was a very shallow retrace into this move. And there is an imbalance back here in this area, okay, right around 106 to 107. So if the DXY, and it's still a big if, we don't know if this is going to play out yet or not, but if the DXY can stay above 100.2 this week, okay, these lows from back here in 2024, right? Keep in mind, this is the range that the DXY was in here recently, right? So if it can reclaim this area here into the weekly close, and we do get that breakout above this level here, then we could very well see a multi-week rally for the US dollar to come back here and fill in this imbalance, okay? There is a big pocket back here that could serve as a magnet for the US dollar if we do get the breakout. Again, it's a big if, guys. We are just waiting to see what happens here. I'm in no hurry to trade these markets because we don't have confirmation yet. Technically, the DXY is below 100.2 on the daily, but it's also above it on the weekly. Okay, so a little bit confused here right now. Again, the Euro is right there at that key level. So the next couple of days are going to tell us what is likely for next week. All right, now one thing I do want to point out, and we talked about this yesterday as well. And by the way, guys, if you are enjoying this content, be sure to smash the like button and also subscribe to the channel for daily videos like this one. So I'm also putting out the weekly forecast on Fridays, and then on Wednesdays, we have a midweek analysis that I put out yesterday. So if you guys are enjoying this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. So looking at the dollar Swiss franc, and I want to touch on this just as kind of a bonus to this video, because I do think it's a very interesting potential setup, is this area back here, 83.30. Okay, I'm not going to talk about this too long, but I do want to touch on it because we talked about it yesterday, and we are getting a little bit of a bounce here from this area, right? So one thing that I talked about yesterday was the potential for this right here, this breakdown, to become a fake out, which is my preferred way of trading markets, because I know that if we were to get a close up here, right, a reclaim of this area, that this would be a very high probability long setup for a move back here towards some of these targets. And just like some of these other markets we've talked about, you can see that if we go to something like the daily time frame, okay, look at this imbalance back here for the USD CHF. Okay, all of this consolidation back here, the market broke down and essentially never looked back. Okay, this imbalance over here was filled, just like what we saw in the DXY. However, this one back here is open for business. Okay, there is a weekly imbalance up here, also a weekly imbalance up here. And it just so happens that this area back here around 87, or really technically just above, if you look at the weekly, okay, this range back here, this entire range that the market was in for over a year, this imbalance on the weekly is very near the mid-range of this range, okay? And so that is very, very appealing to me. However, here is the key. And just like with the Euro, just like with the DXY, I am waiting for confirmation. I'm not going to say we, because I don't know how you trade, but for me, I am waiting for confirmation here. And that is going to be a high time frame close back above here. I need to see this pair get above this area through here in order for this to become a confirmed sell side fake out and get that push higher. Until that time, this is going to be key resistance and there is no long setup. There's also no reason to be bullish. Same thing with the DXY. There's no reason to be bullish while the market is below 100.2. And it's the same thing with the EURUSD. There's no reason to be bearish here while the market is hanging on to these key levels. Okay, but I do think, like I said, the next 24 to maybe 30 hours this week are going to be critical in determining where the euro goes next week. The same thing for the US dollar. So I hope this has helped, guys. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if it has helped, and also click that like button. I will talk to you again tomorrow.